Ladies and gentlemen, fellow lawyers, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be here today with you. But first of all, I have to apologize for not being properly dressed, because the equipment I have here with me is the closest that comes to a black suit that would be appropriate for this function. But again, my apologies. I'll try my best to get close to that, what the standard would be.
Exemption is granted.
Thank you very much. I've been requested to speak about the role of judiciary in making Germany a welfare state. So I will try to do my best to meet your expectations, but please feel free to intervene, ask questions if I say something you do not understand, or if I say something you already know, so then I can progress. Germany as I would like to start in that sense. The German constitution has, in the words, the basic article about what the state should be. This article says that Germany, number one, is a republic, and then number two, it says that Germany is a democratic and social state based on the rule of law. So that is that where it all starts in terms of how Germany could become a welfare state. So as we all know, the constitution is one thing, and it's first of all very important, but it is a piece of paper. And as we all also know, constitutions do have articles in it that give citizens direct rights and also claims to a certain behavior from the state authorities, but not all of those articles are of that nature. So if an article says that Germany is a social, democratic and social state based on the rule of law, it does in the first place not mean much for the individual citizen, because what does it mean? What kind of claims, what rights, should you have towards the state, or the certain behavior of the state based on this article? So this, as we all know then, the Constitution gives a direction in that respect and in that area, and then it's not much more than that. So this direction the Constitution gives has to be fulfilled by laws, and that's sort of step number two. So we have a whole array of laws that give citizens individual rights in terms of what you would call a welfare state, in terms of social security, health insurance, unemployment insurance, and a pension system, all these things, and all different other sorts of rights when you are, for example, sick leave rights, and all these things that are spelled out in laws. And then, of course, another very important part of those laws is the anti-discrimination part of, because of course also the Constitution has a very direct saying that nobody should be discriminated on the basis of basically nothing. So it's a long list of things you shouldn't be discriminated against, not on the basis, but it's, if you sum it up, you shouldn't be discriminated on the basis of nothing. So there is no reason for discrimination. Also, this is something which, in theory, gives you a direct right not being discriminated, but also there, what it really means is spelled out in an array of laws, and that also most recently only culminated in an anti-discrimination law, so which Germany now has, where it's spelled out more in detail how this non-discrimination should happen and what should be done if and when discrimination actually really happens. discrimination in access also to the social rights, but also in access to the labor market, and that of okay, and that goes beyond only that the state has obligations. This also is an obligation that private individuals, companies, economic actors actually have, and also that they are also bound by non-discrimination rules. And that, of course, that is step number 2. This is the laws. But as we all know, and I think if I tell you that, you won't be surprised. The law is one thing, and the implementation of the laws is another one. And as we also hear, partly guessed the society for the enforcement of the rule of law, there must be a reason for having something like this. And Germany, in that sense, is no exception. The fact that you have a law is good, is an important step forward, and gives a framework. But of course then, as we all know, there are mentalities, there are traditions, there are attitudes to certain rights, or to certain behavioral patterns that don't change overnight. And even if you have a law, and those laws, in this kind of some of those social protection laws, they give very direct rights, so there is no doubt what has to be done. You can calculate, say, with a calculator, you can calculate your rights. In other areas, it's not that clear what that actually really means, and what the state actually, or in some aspects also private actors, are actually obliged to do, or what they should not do. So this is, that's where we finally and eventually come to the role of the judiciary, because in our experience is that many of the individual rights of citizens, both in the area of social protection, but also in the area of non-discrimination, have been spelled out, developed, and even further developed by the judiciary. So our judiciary is very active, and also sees this as a role. So they're not policy makers, so it's up to the elected bodies, elected by the people, to make laws. But our judiciary sees its role clearly in being a driver of progress. Progress in the sense that we do not change the law in court, but what their approach is to try, and what we have experienced is that many of those individual rights that we now all enjoy have been set down, defined, and usually, and you can actually rely on it, defined and spelled out in a citizen-friendly, and if you want to say so, state critical manner. And that is in a way the best and the most important, and I think what you can say about the role of judiciary in making Germany a welfare state. Judiciary, that usually has been a very conservative body, over the time after the Second World War has developed in being almost the opposite of a conservative body. Judiciary is a driver of progress. And again, I start repeating myself, but the judiciary is the one body that sees to it that laws, that existing rules, are always interpreted to the maximum extent, maximum possible, to the benefit of the individual and the rights of the individual. So in that respect, judiciary is a driver of societal development in Germany, and has brought about changes that, if you look at the laws alone, the constitution alone, wouldn't have been a given. In that sense, and why is this, and this is the word to say about why is this possible? This is actually really possible because, as our constitution says, the judiciary is independent, the judiciary is not subject to any kind of influence from the other constitutional organs like the government or the parliament. And although judges, of course, are state employees, but their own interpretation of their role is never that of a state employee. And fortunately, they're also allowed, there is no interference to the contrary, so they can interpret their work, their task, their role in society and in the legal system as independent. And of course, if it comes to lawyers or barristers, those people, they are independent because they're not state employees by nature, but also here, the way the self-governing bodies are organized, it is very clear that they're not entrepreneurs that should seek maximum profit. Okay, they have to survive and have no money, but they're not entrepreneurs in the sense of seeking maximum profit out of their profession. They have a role in implementation and development of the rule of law, and as said, they are also in that sense and see themselves as an organ of the judicial system, which in and with its independence is supposed to drive societal development and see to that individuals can enjoy the maximum of their rights guaranteed by the Constitution and spelled out in the laws. And it works. So the independent judiciary does work. It is independent. And I would actually say this is, if you want to say so, a big part of the success of Germany as a society, of Germany as a nation, of Germany also as an economic actor, if you want to put it that way, because you all know rule of law is also the basis not only for peace and internal peace in society, but also it is the basis for economic success, because only economic actors can rely on the rule of law, then they can make reasonable investment decisions, and then they can also do that what they're supposed to do, their part of contribution to the development of society. And I think with this independent judiciary as interpreting its role, a judiciary seen as a whole, not only the courts, the judges, but also the lawyers as organ of judiciary in that sense. We would actually interpret this, or say that this is what the answer to the question, what has made Germany a moralist. Nothing is perfect, and we still are in, or I think it most likely will be an eternal development as time progresses, but a relatively successful society is rule of law, is the judiciary as a guarantor, and not only conservative guarantor of rights enshrined in the Constitution, in the law, but also as a progressive interpreter of rights that emanate from the Constitution and the law. I think if that should, or in my view, and also in my view, but the majority of people in Germany this is what the judiciary contributes, and this is also what we are actually happy and about, that we have that judiciary that can do this and actually has assumed this active role in society and in developing society further. So with that, I would want to stop for a moment, and if there are any questions, then please. So, number one. Yes. Sorry, moderation and
Advocate High Court, Islamabad, we see Excellencies, European Union countries, especially Germany, as a role model for rule of law. With this preamble, my question is, you have a vast experience of deep insight into the knowledge of rule of law and experience. By virtue of that, my simple question is that what do you suggest if Pakistan as a society wants to improve the rule of law? Can you suggest certain measures at beginners level, school beginners level, elementary level, then high school level, college, and university, and for the lawyers fraternity as an individual, by virtue of your deep insight, knowledge, and experience, so that we can get benefit out of it? Thank you very much.
Now be very careful to give any advice to any other countries how to organize themselves, because, as you all know, we very quickly blamed as imperialists if you start telling you what you should do. So that I will avoid that not at all costs, because that's something you don't want to be. Again, the experience is, I would say, if I may though, I have sometimes the slight impression that Pakistan is very good on paper. The constitution is almost it's perfect. Then there are the laws. They are also partly there, partly sometimes I have the impression the ones that deal with rule of law issues easily can get stuck in some processes, and then of course it's the implementation of laws there. But again, it is up to you, and I think there's also an important role of the judiciary, not shying away from demanding and ruling on the implementation of law. And on the other part, that you said, the educational part, if you want to say so, also again, I won't come with prescriptions because every country is different. I actually don't know how it is in the educational system in Pakistan. What I remember from my time in school and also my time in university was that throughout the education system we have been told, you are citizens, you are individuals, you have rights, but also the others around you have rights, and your rights have the limit where those of the others start. This was a very simple message, and it started with primary education, and something that went throughout the whole educational process. And even when I was in law school, at a more sophisticated level, of course, the message was the same. You are not educated or trained as a lawyer just to be a lawyer and to earn money. But what you have a role in society, an important role in society. And I think that, okay, I would leave it at that with prescriptions and advice.